Hi guys, welcome to the first ever episode of the NXT LEVEL Podcast. And with me today is Munah, the first ever guest.
I know!
Welcome.
I'm honored, but I'm also kind of nervous now that I know that I'm the first. Oh no.
How come you say yes to this show though? Like there's no case study for you to like watch.
You know what? Because I'm here for the friendship, the joy and the laughter, so just be nice to me.
All my friends say that I'm a great friend lah. So
Okay.
you'll have
We'll see by the end of this whether we're still friends or I walk out. No, done. Okay.
All right, so before we dive into our conversation proper, maybe I'd like to introduce like the Shine Now brand to everybody. So basically last year in December 2019, we launched this pilot project called Shine Now, which is like Singapore's largest youth unconference. So the idea was that we did a survey with young people, and 1 in 2 Singaporean young people said we are not able to confidently pursue our passions in Singapore.
Okay.
Which, when I took a look at that statistic, I was like, isn't Singapore's tagline "Passion Made Possible"?
Yes.
So it's like, how come?
Which I love, by the way.
It's sexy, right?
Yeah, it's such a sexy tagline.
So, but then it's like, if 1 in 2 people say they're not confident enough, then I think that's an issue there, lah. So we thought like, okay, what is one way whereby we can bring all these industry professionals to go and give their insights, give their learnings, impart their skills to like young people. And the idea was very clear, like it was a conference, right, whereby we can have workshops, like talks and whatnot. And then we went back to the young people and we said, would you attend a conference?
Yeah.
And all of them were like, oh no, I scared.
It sounds so daunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like the idea of a conference is like, I have to wear a suit.
Yes.
I have to wear formal, network.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'm not there yet. So especially when I have to meet like all these people who have made it, like they feel like imposter syndrome, right? Like I don't belong in the same space. So that's how like the Shine Now project came about, whereby we really wanted like an unconference idea where we really make everything like chill, relaxed.
More like a community, I guess, right?
And like a safe space to learn, So like that event went really, really well, and like Straits Times, newspaper, Zao Bao, they all like covered it. And then I think moving forward, we want to grow the event, the initiative to go beyond like just like a one-time event. Yeah. So that's why this is the launch of the NXT LEVEL Podcast.
I'm convinced, and on the next level.
So hopefully, like people who listen to this episode, they'll be like, okay, I can learn a few things from this conversation that we're gonna have, and like perhaps get them to like one step closer to the next level.
Okay.
Right. So I want to talk to you a little bit about like your journey as like I would say, if you were to describe your job or your career, is content creator the right term?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are a lot of things that I do, and I think in my line of work, you take on many different kind of responsibilities, which I feel really helps all around. So on a normal day, like my 9 to 5 is like I act and I host. But at the same time, with me being able to create content, for social media or for campaigns, whatever, it gives me an outlet to be creative. And at the same time, like I learned so much of the process of creating something rather than just being the one in front of the camera. There's so much more to it. And I think it helps. It definitely goes hand in hand, like the knowledge that I take from being on both ends of the spectrum, I guess you call it. For those of you who can't see me, I'm doing this artistic pose. But it's great. So it's a really like holistic kind of learning experience. The past few years I've been doing this. Actually, I'm old, many years already.
Okay. And I mean, I'll use that as a segue for like us to do like maybe like a career retrospective.
Oh, okay.
So we were just talking a little bit more like earlier, and we were saying that like, you started back in 2008. Oh my god, 2008.
What are we now? 2020?
Yeah, dude, that's a long time. And if you think about it, right, you were really part of like that first wave of creators in Singapore who pushed forward this like industry, right? So give yourself like a little pat on the back, I guess.
It's too much. No, I don't think so. No lah. But wait, I was like trying to do the math. 2020 minus 28. Is it 12 years? Okay. The whole time you thought I was like 2020. I mean, I wouldn't say that we kind of propelled the whole idea or the industry. But like with Hirzi and I think we were lucky to be at that point where YouTube was nothing, and we were able to see the progress, which is kind of just like we took ourselves out of the equation and we were like, oh my God, what is this platform that's growing, and it wasn't even YouTube. Like after YouTube, it was like Instagram and Facebook also kind of grew. But when we started, it was really because we were from TP Masscom. Hey TP. And because we did assignments, like we did video assignments, right? And then we wanted to show off like, I got A, So we used YouTube as a platform to like share with our friends, like, this is my assignment, watch lah, At the same time, Hirzi and I were very narcissistic. We were like, we should have cameras all around us all the time. But there was nobody to shoot us, so we shoot ourselves. But we were already in that kind of environment where we like to create. So we just created our own things and we put it up on YouTube just because it was a convenient platform. But little did we know that YouTube was going to grow into something else. So when we put out our first few videos, like other people started watching. We were like, who are these random people watching and like asking for more? We're like, excuse me? Who are you? But we found that, oh my God, this is so exciting that we're creating not just for our friends or for ourselves, like we could create for people as well, and people to give input in the content that we put out. And we're like, oh, it's so fun. And then, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years, it suddenly boomed and it became something that people started going into for business. And we realized that because we had like brands coming on like, hey, we want to work with you for your channel. We were like, huh, what do you mean? Like, it was really such a warped idea. And like, just thinking about it now, like talking to you, like I forgot how like crazy the idea was to us when we first got approached for an offer. We were like, what do you mean? But now it's so normal. Now it's like a platform that, if you don't use social media, we're like, okay, how else are you going to reach to your audience? Because now that's where the audience and the viewers are. So it was quite a very interesting time to just watch that grow and watch the industry in Singapore also kind of propel, and like people wanted more and more to go into, creating stuff for social media.
For sure. And it's like, listening to you say that, it's like, from my perspective, it's like, I kind of see the difference now, where you were saying that, we just did it for fun, right? Whereas today people are like, okay, I want to enter YouTube with like a goal in mind. I want to work with brands, I want to build a brand, I want to build my business. So it's a very, very different kind of way of thinking, approaching like all these different platforms as well. And it's like, I guess, you guys have really like were the guinea pigs, right?
I suppose. I think that's more accurate. We're the guinea pigs to try, But I think all this time, like whatever you do, you're always trying to see like what works, especially for content creation where your audience, they mature, they change, and every time like when you're creating something, you have to make sure that it stays relevant, it stays relatable to the audience. So I think that's also something that I just have to keep up. Like as much as I've been doing this for a while, like it is always something that I have to keep in mind to like, okay, how else do I get this message across, or what is relevant, what is relatable, and what is authentic. I think that's the most important.
For sure.
Yeah.
I want to ask, like, was there a particular point whereby maybe yourself and Hirzi like looked at the kind of works that you were doing and said, you know what, I think I'm going to take this very seriously now?
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Every time I thought about this, I want to cry, but I'm not going to cry. No, I think it was very special. It was actually, so we've been doing this, I don't know, I think at that point, okay, I can't give I can't give a year. I'm so bad with layers. But we've been doing it for a while, and we were doing stuff like 10 days, sex appeal and jokes. And at that point of time, we already put some thought into our content, meaning like we put meaning or like important messages, into our content rather than just like slapstick stuff. And then it was the first YouTube Fan Fest, if I'm not wrong. We had like a little meet and greet. And the meet and greet was, like people take photo, okay, and then like finish. And we finished it really fast. And we had like, I don't know, like 40 minutes left. We were like, oh, we still have the room, right? Why don't like everyone just sit down? And it was one of the first few times where we actually saw people who followed us or who watched us. So we're like, oh, come sit down and ask questions, talk to us, blah, blah, blah. And it was so intimate, and we thought like they were going to ask us questions about like funny things, like just like stupid things, or like how you make video. But they started to open up about like issues that they were facing, very personal things that they were going through. And me and Hirzi, honestly, if you like saw us, our faces, we were just like, oh, we're getting serious with this. But it also hit us that, like as much as we did comedy as the kind of content or genre that we're going into, our stuff, I guess, impacted people in some ways that made them feel like it is safe to talk to us, it is safe to come to us, because we were not exactly, we were the loud little kids, and I guess there were a lot of other people who also sometimes felt like they didn't belong, but somehow when they watched us, they were like, yeah, it's okay to be different. And for them to open up to complete strangers that they've never met, they've only seen online, about things that were so important to them, that were so personal, we were just like, oh my God, there is so much meaning to what we do than, what we thought. And that's when we really kind of, not really changed, but we just put a lot more meaning into our content. Like, okay, when we're creating stuff, like we're doing this to show that, we are a community, we are a safe space that you can come to, which is what you are doing as well. And I think that's very important, like the fact that you have some sort of influence. I think that would probably be the most accurate word, like some sort of influence to kind of get people together to make them feel good, then do it, Yeah.
So obviously, like, I think that was probably like a pivoting point whereby you said like, okay, now I see the impact that my work has, and I can take this seriously. And also, probably by then, you would have already worked with brands and whatnot, and really see like, actually this is a viable career option, right? Yeah. So now I want to, take a step back and because I've been in this position as well, whereby, I understand it and I see it, and also I see the peers around me understand it as well. But then there's the idea of like my parents who are like, we send you to school, we want you to take a career path in like a proper job, right? So for you, like, what was that experience like when you had to, explain to your parents the kind of career path you wanted to do? Why you laugh?
Because it was quite a thing. Like, oh man. So it was definitely something that they couldn't understand, like I already, when I wanted to study media in school, it was just like, why you want to study media? What is media? I'm like, no, trust me, this is what I love. And, already in that phase in my life during poly, like I was doing so much convincing of like, this is really what I want to do. Like, just let me give it a shot, and of course, and I tell this to people all the time, like people who want to get into this, I'm like, you have to have passion for what you want to get into, because this is not easy. Like you're gonna struggle for the first few years, and you have to get through the struggle. If not, then it's not something you want to go through, So, as early as poly, I was already kind of like, okay, how do I explain to my parents? And then when it became something, I honestly also didn't think it was going to be anything. I was still going with the flow. And right after poly, I was also starting to get into like acting and like hosting for TV, right? And of course, my parents were just like, what is happening? Like, why are you coming late at night? Like you're doing this kind of jobs. Like, how is it stable even? And it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't stable for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years of my life. But I knew that it was what I loved, and I just continued doing it. I think I am lucky that my parents, as hard as they were on me for making this choice, they still kind of allowed me space to explore. And I felt that little bit of space that they allowed me did help me, like did give me that, okay, you know what, I'm just going to try. And I'm at a stage where I think my parents see that like, okay, you know what, you're independent enough. I think that was the struggle for me. This is like going to my own personal problem. It was really just to show them that, you know what, don't worry about me. Like I am going to fight for this because I want to do this. But at the same time, I know how to be practical with my life. I need stability, I need independence, and like I'm going to show you that I am able to do this. Right. So I worked like crazy, like it's a lot of work. It's very difficult, but because I know that this is what I wanted to do, that's why I went through it. Yeah.
I think talking to a lot of like the younger people out there, what I realized is that like, it's very difficult for them to bring up that conversation with their parents. So for you, like, did you have that talk with them, or was it more like a let me show rather than tell?
For me, I think it was more show, because, I was being like, I hope my parents don't see this, but I was being like, just every once in a while, I would get nagged at, or they would just have conversations with me saying like what are you doing? Like, where are you at in life? And I'm like, no. But I think for me, it was more like action speaks louder than words. So as much as, I can't explain, because it's really so hard to, like, how do you explain to your parents, like, wait, relax. Like, maybe give me like 2-3 more years. They're like, no, the time is now to be stable. So it really was a matter of like showing, and that's why like I was so motivated. Like I had this fire to like, you know what, I really want to show them that I'm able to take care of myself and then of them as well, I think that's very important.
I think I'm the same way as well, because like obviously I pursued arts in uni, which is like
already
hey, well, we paying your uni fees while you're studying art, so and then after that, like they kind of like asked, okay, what job are you gonna do? And I said social media, and they're like, what? It's like, your cousin is a lawyer. It's like, oh, sorry.
What happened to being a doctor, a vet?
It's like, no, I'm not saying what, but your cousin lawyer, other one. So it's like, it's obviously a very tough one, but then luckily for me, I guess I had that one moment like last year with Shine Now actually, when when I purposely invited my dad to like sit in the audience to like watch the event, and then like it was just like, okay, so for me it was also a show.
That's so
nice. I think at that moment then they were like, oh, I get what my son is doing, so I guess like showing and rather than telling might be a more effective way in Singapore.
For
maybe.
sure, I think so too. And like number one is to not like misunderstand your parents. Like they come from a good place, and I mean like at the end of the day, I think all they want is for you to be okay. You know, like it's so scary to have a kid and like, oh, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna be okay? So I definitely understand where our parents are coming from, but it's so important that if this is what you want to do, you have to put in the hard work. It's not easy. Like there are people like many years ago who come to me, and I know that they want to go into this because they think it's the easy way out, but it's not. There's so much hard work.
Oh, for sure.
Like because it's such it's a new kind of thing that you're venturing into. There's so much thought, and like there's so many things that you have to go through. So you just have to be prepared for that. It's possible, but you just have to keep that fire alive, I think.
So we talked about the start of your journey earlier, but now I want to talk about like after you started this career, right? Like let's talk about what are some of the challenges that you faced throughout this entire journey? Was there any particular one that said that allowed you to say, I learned so much from that experience?
Oh, a lot. I think there was so much. I guess I'm not gonna go into one particular one, but like a lot of it had to do with the things that we were putting out, the things that I was putting out, and what they all taught me was that whatever you put out online, on the internet, whatever you say, you have to be completely responsible for it. Number one, like you're not going to be able to please everyone. And people are sometimes going to misinterpret the things you say, the kind of messages you put out. And if it's a very like difficult message to put out, that like the general public won't be so agreeable to it, you have to also know how to do it. You cannot do it like angry, you cannot do it preachy. There's a way to go around difficult conversations. And I think in the first few years of YouTube, there was a lot of that because number one, we were so young, we didn't know how it worked, and we were just like, just say whatever you want, like it's the internet, no one's gonna say no, there's no like there's no body that says like, no, you cannot censor this, censor that. So it really is on your own accord, and that's where you really learn the hard way when everyone's like against you for something you put out and you're like, what did I do? But it's also so important to be open to that kind of criticism, then you understand like, my actions do all have consequences, and like what consequences then, and how do you get back up from it? So I think those are the few key things. Just be responsible for what you say, and if it's something difficult that you're trying to put out, there's always a way to execute that. Like if it's a really important message and you believe in it, then go ahead, like speak your mind, but there's a way to address like the crowd. Yeah.
For sure. In terms of like getting into the right headspace to be receptive to, criticism, because obviously, like as you mentioned, it's like, you have to be open to it.
Yeah.
But like, how do you get there? Because the natural instinct when people are shouting
to be
against,
defensive.
It's either defensive or you run, right? Or you hide.
Yeah.
So it's like, to be able to embrace it takes a certain mindset. Like, how did you get there yourself?
It's a process. I wouldn't say that overnight, it happened. Like overnight, I'm like, oh, this is how I'm gonna approach problems. Like I think the first time it happened, also like I was scared. I like didn't know what to do. Like to have people that you don't know like be against you and like say all these things, and you're just like, what? It's so stressful. I think like up till now it still will be stressful, but it's a process that you have to just learn. I think like there are two kinds of would I call it hate? Like there are two kinds of criticisms. So there's one that is constructive. So as much as people might be loud and like saying these things are wrong, blah blah blah, take it, and see like, okay, where did I go wrong, and why are people thinking this way of what I said or what I put out? And is there anything that I can learn from it? Like if there was a mistake that you did, then sure, like own it, because like honestly, we're not perfect. We're gonna end up saying or doing something wrong, like in anything you do in life, So like you really have to just approach it in that sense. Like, okay, did I make a mistake? If I made a mistake, apologize, or like make amends. But then there's also the comments that's just noisy lah. So you just have to be able to filter that. Like don't get affected by just the noise comments. Like think about the ones that are really important, and have conversations with people. Like sometimes, like what I learned is also sometimes when you want to put out things that are difficult, like you're talking about like something difficult, like get other people to watch it as well. Like I think that's one tip. Like get people from different sort of like walks of life, not just like media friends who are like kind of on the same wavelength. Like just ask other people, okay, what do you think? Like if I put this out, like will anyone take offense? Like do you think like something's wrong? So like trial and error your content if it's something that is like you think might be problematic if you put out. So that's one tip to be, instead of just being loud and like, this is what I want to say, and then like, and then what? And then what's your follow up? Like you've seen like so many cases where people are just like, and then like shit hits the fan and you're just like, okay, so how now? So always just remember you are responsible for what you put out. So, take the necessary steps before you like make that call.
I think that's great tips because like I think especially today, when you have like a lot of people being very proactive on social media.
For sure.
Also like with the whole cancel culture, it's like a whole other conversation on its own. I think whoever is wanting to enter the creator space will have to take note of like how to navigate, the internet of today, which is very, very different, right, from when it first started out. So is it difficult for you to like over the years, where by now you're a bit more cautious of what you say?
I've been getting that question so much,
Yeah?
I feel like it's not more, I wouldn't say the word is more difficult. I think you just have to be a bit more aware. Like, like from the start of like when social media was a thing, like take me for example, I was not aware at all. I would just say whatever. And then when, things happen, like, all these controversies came up, and then I just became like, oh my God, maybe I do have to think about what I say. But now even more you have to be aware, because there are so many people who are opinionated, like they are a lot braver to, say things if they are not happy, which is great. Like I think that's what we want, that's where we are at now, and it's great. And that's why you just have to be a lot more aware, a lot more respectful, and a lot more responsible.
Right. Is that a fear that maybe like one day you'll make a mistake, or do you embrace that fear?
I think, like fear is gonna stop you. Of course it's scary, but don't let the fear stop you. Like I said, like there are steps for you to take to make sure that, you don't go about it wrong. If you take all these steps and you still go about it wrong, then okay, fine, there might be a learning point, there might be something you miss, and then you just take it and go again. It's a process that never ends, know, and like it's gonna keep changing. People more and more are gonna be woke. I hate that word. But more and more, like, people
Yeah.
are going to be more outspoken, which is great. But, you know, that's why you just have to be a lot more aware of, like, your current situation or current
Right.
market. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So last year with the Shine Out event, right, one of the headliners was Jamie Park from Korea. And when she came down, like, also with her, I was expecting the questions to be just like, oh, you know, like, we're fans, you know, but then the kind of questions that came out were like, whoa, like deep, hard-hitting questions. And I think she spent a good time talking about like mental health and, you know, I guess, you know, being in a creator space in Singapore as well, like, you know, what are some ways in which you keep your mental wellness in check? Well, because I probably understand that, like, you know, when you put yourself out there, you're gonna be putting yourself open to you know, all sorts of feedback, right? And sometimes it may not be that great for mental, like, health and wellness. So is that an issue for you? And if so, like, how do you know, protect yourself?
Well, I think number one, I have so many like numbers, right? With what I do, like being in the line of fire, if you want to call it that. Not really, like, just being out there, being out there for everyone to see. What helps me is that I have like a like mini support system. You know, that helps me. So with whatever I go through, like anything difficult that I go through publicly, I know that at the back end, like, I always have my family support, and I have like a group of friends who are just always there for me. And it helps, you know, like, I'm the kind of person who, like, if I'm going through something, I won't talk about it. Are you that kind? Like, I'll just like, it's okay,
Actually,
I'll sell it myself, you know?
Yes. I'm
And
more of a listener than like,
yes,
okay,
oh my god, that's why I want to talk to you now.
Eh?
Tell me.
I know.
But so I'm that sort, and I know my friends know I'm that sort. So, you know, when things really get difficult, I just know at the back of my mind, like, if I really cannot handle it, I have like a support system.
Right.
And like, having someone is so important. Like, even if it's not a group, even if it's just one person, a stranger or whatever, like, I think it's so important to just know that you can reach out when you want to, you know, you're not in this alone. So that's just the mindset I keep with me. And like, the next thing is to be able to balance out like my time and work time. Like, I used to go crazy like with work, like I would just like push until like I like would burn out. And there was a point of time where I was just like burning out like crazy because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle work. I couldn't handle like the anxiety or the stress that I was going through, and it just was not productive. Like, it would affect, I want to be great at my work, but it definitely affected, like, you know, the quality or like how efficient I was, and it affected my health a lot. And I was just like, you know what, like, why are you doing this to yourself, you know, like, just take your time. And nowadays, like, if I need a break, I'm like, I need a break, you know. Like, responsibly, of course, don't take breaks and then not do work. But, you know, like, you have to know when to stop. Like, that was something that I took with me. Like, I have to learn how to say no, and I have to learn how to stop before I burn out. What do you do?
For myself, like, I think for me, I identify like the passions that I have, and then I really just set aside time to just like do that, and also like basically like, you know, indulge in the things that make you happy, right? And then recently I've been doing a bit more like outdoor stuff, because you kind of like appreciate the outdoors now that, like, you know, COVID and everything. So I've been doing those very nerdy like trails that the end parks.
Yeah, so cute. Oh my god, you're one of those.
So I like
nice.
go walk around and like just breathe in the nature, which is something I'll never do before this. You know, like I'm more at home kind of like, you know,
homebody.
So now I'm doing that. So I think it helps and kind of like also parking it as like social time with my friends, right? It's like, hey, everybody, let's walk together. So it's kind of like
so
have conversation.
Cute.
It's like old uncles.
It's so cute. Oh my god. Hey, let's walk together. But yeah, I think it's important to just be able to balance it. It's a lot easier said than done. Like, I'm saying this now, and like, you know, people are like, you can say it, but you really just need to like be at a point where you tell yourself that, I need to take care of myself, because you only have one you. And if you are like burning out, like nothing else is gonna proceed or like be good, you know. Like, it's just
agree.
just gonna. Like that. Yeah.
So, at this point in your career, right, whereby, you've been through all this kind of like different experiences and the entire journey, like to wrap up this section, if you were to speak to Munah, who was in TP, and about to start her journey in this career, like what is like that one tip that you'll give her?
First, I would tell her, shh, so noisy. Sometimes when I watch back old things, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so noisy. Kali, I'm still noisy now, right?
Okay lah.
Everyone's just like,
silent sunset.
Yes. What I would tell my younger self, I think I would tell my younger self to not let fear stop you or doubt stop you. Like, just go, Like, I think in my teens and in my early 20s, there was so much insecurity. There was so much self-doubt. And as much as, I was loud and like this like person that was just like, yeah, whatever, I was always happy-go-lucky, but there was a lot of insecurity that I was going through as well. And, with myself, with my work, I was always afraid to just put things out all the time. But now in my 30s, I feel like I'm at a more grounded place. Not that I won't make mistakes. I think I will fail. I will constantly fail, throughout my life. But I'm at a stage where I'm not afraid anymore. Like I can take failure and like turn it into something else or know how to deal with it better rather than when I was younger. So don't be afraid. Don't let doubt stop you. Just try.
Nice.
If
Awesome.
you fail, just try again.
Yeah, but you kind of did go, at that point. So like, who or what pushed you to say like, okay, I'll do it? Or was it just like having a friend beside you to say like, hey, let's do it together? Then we just.
I honestly felt like having Hirzi with me, like doing the YouTube thing with him was part of my growth, and it really did help me to have someone to do it with me because I don't know for him, I'm sure it helped for him, right? Hirzi? But like just doing it with your best friend and like, getting things thrown at you, like difficult stuff thrown at you, but knowing that, you have each other no matter what, really kept me going. And I was lucky to be in that position.
Right.
And that's what I think helped us grow as well. So yeah.
Nice.
If you're on your own though, like it always helps to just be, like I said, like be able to know you can reach out or, have like that one friend that you can turn to. So yeah.
Nice. No,
just go for it.
Like speaking about Hirzi, right?
Yeah.
Just 2 years ago, you guys had that farewell show.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about that, right? Like, why was it that after 10 years of doing this, you were like, yeah, let's close the channel? Because we kind of see, your contemporaries, they were like, oh, my mindset towards YouTube now will be that how do I upskill? How do I make it into something bigger than me? But very interestingly, yourself and hers, you were like, let's close the channel. And I was like, wait, what?
Because we are old.
Is that it?
There's more, but one of the reasons, just so you know.
Yeah, so like what was that thought process that made you guys go like, yeah, we want to be able to close this chapter of our lives?
So, you know what? Honestly, there were like different points throughout that 10 years where we thought like, okay, it's time. But like there was always something that like pushed us even further. We're like, no, it's not time yet. Like for some reason we just have this like feeling like, okay, it's not time yet. Like we still have to push on and make content and do this with our community. But I think at the 10-year mark, it was at a point where it was a nice time to just call it a wrap. Trying to find my words here. And like be able to pass that torch on, so-called, to our community. And it was nice. There were a lot of reasons, I think, but one of it is we just felt like Hirzi and I were at a point where we wanted to also focus a lot more on our individual paths. Like we were in our late 20s at that time, and we wanted to just see what else we could do on our own. But then also as a YouTube community, we felt like there was so much fire in like the people who were following us, and they wanted to do their own thing. And we were like, yeah, it's so nice, like they grew with us with Munah Journey Official, and now they want to do their own thing. We're like, okay, we're gonna like stay here and we're gonna let you guys soar. And like it's really nice because there are some of our followers who are now like doing things like in social media. They're creating content, and like, you know, there's like little hints of like MHO, which I love, and I'm just like, oh yeah, my little babies are growing up. And also like I said, like Hirza and I always believe, like, you know, sometimes when you watch something, like it goes on for like a season too long.
Right.
You know, and then you're like, okay, you should have stopped. So it was really at a very nice point for us to close. Like there were so many things that we already put out there, and we felt like, okay, this is the course of our YouTube channel, but now we can go further with whatever we've done here on our own to just branch out even more. Like the kind of messaging we want to put out, the kind of you know, content that we want to put out, like we wanted to spread even further with that. So.
Basically ending on a high, right?
Yes,
it's so exciting. So basically we talked about like your journey so far. After we come back from this break, I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing like these days.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So, you know, obviously wrapping up like Munahs Official, you said that you wanted to chart your own path, basically, right? So like what has that experience been like so far?
Scary, but in a good way. You know, like for the first few months of like just not having the channel, I was just like, oh no, like I don't have like my best friend to lean on. But I've definitely been a lot more focused on acting, like which is what I wanted to do, and for TV and theatre as well. I think content on social media, that's also still happening. But what I love is that right after the YouTube channel stage, like opportunities have opened up with like different sorts of brands, you know, like I think it just kind of propelled me to somewhere that was a nice place for me to grow even further, like individually in terms of like, you know, what I do with my social media. So I've been very lucky to work with like so many different clients, brands, campaigns that are just exciting and like keep like my creative fire alive and keep me on my feet, you know, like you cannot be complacent. You're just always like, okay, what else can I do? Like how else can I make this fun? So it's so much fun. It's very exciting. And then I'm doing a lot more with theatre now, like which is what I think I want to get into in the next few years as well. Like apart from just acting, I also wanted to do a lot more producing for theatre, and that's what I've been slowly like, you know, discovering. I'm still in the new process of discovering, so you know, it's scary, but I always feel like you need to take things that are scary. If not, like you're not gonna learn, you're not gonna grow, and you're not gonna feel like challenged.
Has it been fun so far charting out on your own?
For sure. It's like I'm always one to do like just exciting things, so anything that like scares me or just like, you know, like I wake up and like, oh my god, how, you know, like it just motivates me. I think it just keeps me on my toes all the time, which is great. I love it.
So obviously you've talked about like how you have really inspired like a whole generation of like creators, right? I know a bit weird to say like that, but I think have, you know.
Okay.
But like, you know, with these kids now wanting to enter perhaps like a creator space, like, you know how I asked you to give advice for yourself back then? It's like, I think when you first started, the space was very different from what it is today. So like now that, you know, you kind of are a veteran in the current space as well, it's like and also like I would say like the benchmark, right? When people look at like, okay, who are creators? It's like, oh, Munah is up there. So what are some of the maybe like insider info or like tips that you can give to people who want to enter like today's industry?
At where we are at now?
Yes.
I think it's no different. It's not that much different from when you wanted to enter maybe a few years ago. I really think it's just to not be afraid to fail.
Okay.
And also get into, you know, like difficult positions. I find that always stops people. Like once they fail at something, they're just immediately like, okay, I'm scared. Because like, obviously you don't want to be bad at what you do. And I find that always just like puts a halt on something. So don't be afraid to fail. I think that's very important. And then of course, whatever content you want to put out, it's so important to stay true to your own voice.
Okay.
Like there are so many types of content nowadays, right? Like so many genres that people want to get into, and sometimes like you just find yourself like just like taking this because this formula works for someone else, and then you do it yourself, and then it just doesn't come across right. And I always feel like your followers or people who watch you will know if you're being like real or not, you know. So just be yourself, you know. Like if you feel like you've got that personality, you've got that aura to be on social media, then then people will see it too. And there are people who will relate to you no matter what you do. Like TikTok, oh my god, like I don't know TikTok, but like I find like there's so much like smart content on TikTok and so different, so vastly different. You will not relate to some, but you will relate to some. Does that make sense? So don't be afraid, just be authentic, and that will shine through. Shine through.
Now.
Get it? Shine now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Munah, for spending time with us today. Now, if they want to look for you on social media, which is obviously your space, like where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Munah Bagharib and TikTok. No, I don't know TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. Someone needs to show me how to use TikTok.
Ooh, not me.
That's why I'm looking at you. You can find me on Instagram at Munah Bagharib.
Nice. You can also watch Munah on Just Saying.
Yes, of course. Yes. On Just Saying on the YouTube channel.
The Backstage Bunch. Like an exciting talk show. I mean, it's your return to YouTube, right?
Yes, I love it. And I'm so excited for it.
And if you want to like follow the Now page on Instagram, it's Now Academy SG. And if you want to look for me on social media, it's LimXJoel, LIMXJOEL. Right. All right, thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of the Next Level Podcast. I hope this was a nice episode for you guys and hopefully for you too.
Of course, I like speaking with you. Thank you.
This was nice, right? It was chill. Passed the friendship test?
Well, we'll see about that. But no,
okay,
of course. Love.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.